we're here today. Welcome everyone with Tri-State Expo Juneteenth Affairs. We are home of the Juneteenth celebration down in Dothan, Alabama. And today, during Black History Month, we wanted to cover all aspects of history, African American here in the South, and we wanted to also cover the Confederate history with accuracy, not misconceptions. Well, if you want accuracy and no misconceptions, you want Mr. Jack Cowart. He is a Confederate historian, and he also serves as the historian for Miller County, Georgia. He is also with the Georgia Division 9th Brigade Commander, and he is the developer or the co-developer of a replica version of the 1864 Hunley. And this is a Confederate submarine used during the Civil War. Everyone, today, please welcome Mr. Jack Cowart.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cowart, individuals within our stream on Facebook, please chime in with your questions. Remember, keep your questions respectful, but speak your question, and we will air your question if it's respectful, everybody. We will air your question and pose it to Mr. Jack Cowart. And remember, we're after historical accuracy. And I would like also to shout out to our historian within our own organization, and his goal is to also make sure we are accurate with our Juneteenth history, and that is Mr. Stephen Holland. And I just wanted to shout out with him. He is today with the basketball team that he coaches as a volunteer. Yeah. And so we're so happy and so glad to be able to have you today, Mr. Jack. Let's start off with some easy questions that I've already posed with you. Let's start the discussion about the Hunley. And we will post those pictures about the Hunley, but let's talk about the development of it and what was the purpose of it in 1864.
Well, actually it goes back to 1863.
Okay.
They were already experimenting with a submarine. They were called submersibles at the time, and that was already being done in New Orleans. And Mr. Hunley, the engineer, continued the development of it. But in Charleston, South Carolina, the Union was bombarding the city of Charleston. Now the ports had already been destroyed. All the young men had gone to war. The only people in Charleston at that time were women, children, and old men. And so the bombardment continued to come in every night, and so the South wanted some way of stopping that, and so they took a submersible. They were called Davids at the time, and the word David is because of David versus Goliath. This little ship that I guess you got a picture of it up.
Yes.
That little ship, which in reality was 40 foot long. Now, my model is a half scale Hunley, so it's only 20. But that ship was 40 foot long, and it had 8 men inside of it. It was propelled by 7 men cranking a shaft that turned the propeller to move it. And so that little boat went out, faced a gunboat or a ship, like today we would call it a battleship of their day, and they had 100 guns on it shooting into the city of Charleston with high explosives and incinerators, starting fires, killing women and children, and so they said this little boat had one bomb on the front, had it on a rod that went out front. They rammed it into the ship, backed away, and detonated the bomb. And in doing so, it lifted that boat up, split her in half, and in 5 minutes she was underwater. I think 7 minutes ago actually, but that's the event. But leading up to that, 2 of the crews had died, gave their life trying to learn how to operate a submarine. They never had one. And so this was a first time thing. The South could not meet the North on an equal battlefield, because we didn't have the engineering and the industrial capabilities of building things like this on a large scale. Where the North was building hundreds of boats, we could only build a few. So we had to make ours count. And so technology became the big thing. And here we had iron ships for the first time. We had ironclads. That was a new invention. We had the submersibles and explosives. We started dealing with mines and what they called torpedoes. And so this had a torpedo, it attached to that ship, it pulled away, it detonated, it sunk that boat, but the entire crew on the Hundley, because of power underwater, they didn't realize the force that it would come. When she pulled back, that bomb went off and killed all 8 men. They died sitting in their place. There was no struggle, there were no drownings, they died instantly, and they just sat in their seats. And that ship drifted out, was underwater for 150 years, and finally a man by the name of Cleve Cluster, who's an author, wrote many books, and he was interested in that. But Cleve began to look for that Hundley in areas they did not know where it would be, and they found it, they raised it up, and today it's in a museum.
Wow. Did the Union have that type of capability as far as a submersible?
The Union was experimenting with submersibles. Their idea was to use it to bring somebody near shore, allow them to get out and go out and spy, and then get back in, take off. And so they were playing with that idea. But it took some Southern boys to say, hey, we can blow things up with this. We can have fun with this. And so it was the mind, the idea of putting it on. Now, originally, they were going to pull it underneath, they let the submarine go under the ship and pull the package that had the explosive on it into the side of the ship. Well, that was changed, and their Army generals said, no, we don't want you to go underwater. We want you to stay on the surface, just beneath the surface. And so they changed around to put the bomb on the front. And it was 125 pounds of black powder, which was a tremendous, a lot of explosive power.
And so it was that recoil from the discharge.
The pressure underneath
right.
it, yeah. That's what killed them.
That would kill the soldiers.
Killed them, but it also lifted the Housatonic, which was a new ship. It was a brand new ship. They got mad at us for going to the previous, but it picked it up, broke it in half, it sunk. It went 20, the ground was 28 foot, the water bank was only 28 feet deep. So it sunk down and hit the ground. The sailors climbed and got into the rigging, and they climbed up the rigging in the ship, and that's where they were rescued from. 5 of the Union soldiers died, or sailors died in the explosion.
And the loss of the ship itself.
Well, we had 8 of our guys died, plus they lost their ship, lost 5 men. But they didn't attack Charleston anymore at night like that.
This, the Hundley itself, what inspired you to create the?
Well, obviously, I love the history. I was speaking at my camp. You know, we're Sons of Confederate Veterans. We have a camp in Iron City, Georgia. Okay. And by the way, anybody's welcome to come. We'd like to invite anybody in the area to come over. There are camps here in Dothan. We have camps down in Panama City, all around the area. And these are people who just love history, love their heritage. And so I was speaking at mine. I was teaching about the Hundley that night. And I just made a casual comment, we ought to build one. And a gentleman laughed, and laughed real loud. And I said, what are you laughing about? He said, yeah, you don't have the sense to build one, you don't have the money to build one. And I got a little upset, but he didn't know how much money I had. But he was right, I didn't have what I needed. But God provided, and we got it and it started working, and people began to donate things, and we were able to build this replica.
So the gist of that is not to challenge you and tell you what you can't.
Well, that's what I've been told anyway.
Well, okay, we'll go on to our next question. Right. Since you were talking about history, right, and that being your passion, tell me what are some of the misconceptions regarding Confederate history? What are some misconceptions that you would like to address today?
I think a lot of folks, first of all, they're offended at the flag. And I wore our logo here on the shirt, and I'm doing it because I'm proud of my heritage. And by the way, I don't care who you are, you have heritage, and you ought to be proud of your ancestors. And the shame today is people don't look for their ancestors. They don't know who their ancestors are. I hear a young man, we were talking about a while ago, I said right across the street where you live is a cemetery, and your great-great-great-granddad is buried right there, and he didn't know it. And what a shame. You walk out there just a quarter mile from his house, across out in the open field out there, that's his ancestors, and he didn't know it. People don't look back. You talk to most people, 2 generations, they know who grandma is, they know who grandpa is, but they don't know beyond that. And so I think it's important that we look back. Now, when you come to Confederate history, obviously there were not a lot of battles around here. We had one down in Mariana, but here in southwest Georgia, southeast Alabama, there was not. But there was a lot of people here involved in other places.
Right, like Mobile Bay.
Oh yeah, sure, all around. Well, the salt plants down in Panama City, that area, and then the battle in Mariana that took place, and we speak there every year, and just south of Tallahassee. Today, there's a reenactment of Olustee over at Lake City, Florida today, and that's a big thing. We need to learn our history. I think we ought to. And you think about the men that got in this submarine, and no one had ever been in a submarine before, but yet this man said, hey, I think I can invent something that'll stop this problem and break the blockade. That was their goal, was to break the blockade. Given time, they probably would have done that. But there were other ships like the Honey Bill. It's just we don't know about them because schools don't teach history anymore.
That misconception, let me address one of them. And I think it's like a spinoff, Mr. Jack. 21st century hate groups, they operate under that flag.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Help people understand the differences between the hate groups and the true heritage and history.
Well, let me challenge you this. If you want to go on the internet and look at pictures of parades of, say, the Klan, I guess that's what we're talking about. If we're talking about the Klan or any other group, if you take pictures of the Klan, you go back to, say, the Washington, D.C. rally. That was the big one, many years ago. You look at the flags that they're carrying. They're carrying, number one is the American flag. Number two is the Christian flag. And very seldom, but sometimes, you see the battle flag of the Confederacy. You see that more on TV than you do in reality. Hollywood has declared war on the Southerners. And as a result, they use our emblems against us. And so if anybody in Hollywood